Cannon Films, the home of high-powered, high-voltage motion picture entertainment.
Welcome to That's Canon, a podcast talking about the Cannon film series and other similar movies. This is episode 27, and I'm your host, Phil.
And I'm Greg.
Greg, pre-show, I just said this phrase, and I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
I don't know how much we can talk about the Gumball Rally. Did you feel the same way when you were watching it? It had the exact opposite issue of Sahara, where Sahara, it started off with a race, and then it got bogged down with a bunch of story, and then it ended the race. This movie had the exact opposite issue, where it starts off with a bunch of story,
and then all race
for like 40 minutes for the race, and then ends.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I will probably be in your camp in that I don't have a lot of like substantial things of substance to say, but I actually enjoyed the movie. I don't have a lot to say because I was just kind of watching and enjoying the movie the whole time, but it's very surface level. And yeah, you're right. They dispense with a lot of plot pretty early on at the end. I mean, by the time you get going, it's just kind of comedy racing scenes one after another.
Yeah. So the Gumball Rally, because I know we were originally... Oh, let's talk about this really quick, because originally we were going to watch the Cannonball Rally. Or the Cannonball Run, sorry. The 1981 Cannonball Run film. It is not available to purchase anywhere, rent digitally. Looking deeper into this, it's because it seems to be owned by some Chinese company. And that's not like supposed to be derogatory. That's actually real. It's owned by some Chinese company.
Just like a media conglomerate buying up, IPs.
Burt Reynolds IPs. And they just don't release it digitally. But the Cannonball Run 2 is available everywhere.
Interesting.
So obviously we can't watch the sequel. There's probably a bunch of Cannonball Run lore that we would miss if we just jumped right into this thing.
Yes.
So
no doubt about it.
So we had to pivot on this. So we watched the Gumball Rally, which I do remember this being at the speaking engagement for Joe Bob Briggs.
Right. The one we did out at the Alamo Draft House.
Yes. So the Gumball Rally was released in 1976, written and directed by Charles Bale, who surprisingly, even though this movie was a hit, he went on to direct TV after this pretty much. Yeah.
I can kind of buy that for some reason. I don't know what, I can't put my finger on why. I got the very distinct impression during the credits or the opening credits that it just kind of felt like a TV show.
Yes.
Did you get that impression too? I don't know why.
Especially that middle part where they're doing the race. Very TV show-esque.
Yeah. We should probably mention that just to in case there's any confusion. We're in and other similar movies territory here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, if you remember back, we did our episode on Sahara and we were lamenting the fact that there was we thought we were getting a kind of fun action adventure, race across the Sahara kind of movie with that. And we got it in the beginning, and then we got bait and switched hard and ended up spending the entire movie with one bad kidnapping person or another.
Yes.
And so he's like, okay, well, after we do our retrospective, let's watch a good movie that does what we thought Sahara was going to do.
And this definitely did it.
It definitely did it. Yeah. Just to get that out of the way. We were kind of ragging on it a little bit, but it definitely delivers on the promise of kind of a fun, goofy, race across the country.
So when you watched the intro credits and you saw the actors in it, besides Raul Julia and Gary Busey, did you know anyone else in this movie?
No.
Right? It's kind of weird that the main star, Michael Sarazan, I've never heard of this guy before.
No, he's got a very distinctive look. I feel like I would have seen him as like a character actor in something else. Heck, I thought that I saw him in Star Trek.
So
just
you're not wrong.
Roll the dice.
He was in Star Trek Deep Space Nine in the episode The Quickening. He was Trevan.
Oh, he was the doctor.
Yeah.
He was the doctor of that planet. No shit. Okay.
Because this actor, Michael Sarazan, he looks like a Henry Fonda or like just someone generic 70s actor, right?
Yeah, it's hard to put your finger on because he has the really popular, like the longer haircut, kind of square jaw.
Yeah.
Where's those turtlenecks? I mean, he definitely has that look.
But yeah, fuck if I knew almost anyone besides two people in this movie.
I can't believe that the Star Trek instinct is so strong.
You're like,
at this point, like, I don't know what it was. I just know I saw him in Star Trek.
You could just feel it.
Lo
And
and behold,
it was like
bones.
it was tickling your frontal lobe.
the Star Trek lobe.
Exactly.
that I've grown over time after watching all these series 5 or 6 times.
So the movie, I thought it had a very interesting intro to it. And it's the gumball machine, and you see the gumballs coming out, everything else like that. I was like, okay, that's cute. You know, it's kind of setting up what we're gonna watch in some weird way with the gumballs, and that's the trophy that they're gonna win.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think that we'd see an actual gumball machine anywhere.
Neither did I.
I thought it was just a name.
Same here. I thought like Gumball Rally. It's just kind of goofy, fun, but that's what they're racing for is a gumball machine.
Yeah, if you imagine a gumball machine with kind of like a cheesy gold, I forget what it was on top, but like a trophy thing on top. That's literally what it was.
Yeah. So the movie opens up. We're in New York, because we're gonna do the thing of movies where we show the city and state because it matters for some reason. And we open up and we see Michael Sarzan's character named Michael Bannon, and I swear this is the only character besides Raul Julia where they actively say the characters' names, right? Those are the only two that I
oh yeah, I have no idea who anyone's names are. I just called them by the actors' names. Raul Julia was Raul Julia the entire time.
Yeah, everyone else is just like a Shemp. So Michael Bannon, he's sitting in a boardroom. They're talking about candy, and he's fidgeting with a toy safe, and inside are gumballs, and you can hear in the background car engines and stuff like that. And Michael Bannon turns around and he picks up the phone and he calls one of his friends, and he just says the word gumball, and that's kind of the like the invitation, right?
It's kind of like you get the impression right away that it's kind of like a code word for something that we don't really know what it is yet.
Exactly. And then there's probably the longest montage of this happening, where then we go to like Boston, Massachusetts, and we see someone who looks like Frank Oz, but it isn't Frank Oz. He's a professor, and he gets the phone call, and it's like Gumball. And he calls up Michael, and he's like, "Oh, I'm about to get tenure. I gotta play it safe." He's the nerd friend,
right? The kind of the nervous guy.
Yeah. Then we cut to Los Angeles, California. 2 cops are driving on the beat, and they get a dispatch. It's Gumball, and they turn the lights on, and they start driving away because they're
away, yeah.
It's just like there's these montages of, and we won't go through all of them, but there's a female couple, there's an old man couple who I loved the old men in this, but I wish there was more for them to do.
Yeah, I was gonna say there is not enough of those guys. One of them was definitely British. I don't know if the other one was, but you just like imagine 2 kind of old British guys in a car together driving way too fast.
Exactly.
That's kind of this kind of like old man couple that he mentioned.
I love it. Besides the old man couple, my next favorite one was obviously Gary Busey. Busey and his portly friend.
They're the redneck characters in this one.
Yes, and some of Gary Busey's lines are so choice in this movie. I absolutely loved him in it. Prime Busey. So
it's good to know that he's always been kind of unhinged. You can tell. I mean, if he's got a very distinctive look himself, but just his mannerisms, he's kind of like he's just kind of twitchy. I don't know what it is, but he's very Gary Busey.
It's interesting because you see him in some movies, and this one he is 100% Gary Busey, but then he's like in Lethal Weapon and he's playing it very serious. But you can tell when someone's just like, just be Gary Busey in this movie.
Yes, just do your thing. He's definitely doing it here.
We do eventually meet Raul Julia's character. I absolutely love Raul Julia. He is amazing. He plays an Italian in this movie, an Italian, like I would say womanizer, right? Or just lover of women.
Yeah, he's definitely a womanizer. He's easily, they established early on, which it comes into play later, but they established early on that he's extremely easily distracted by beautiful women.
Yes.
He will stop whatever he's doing to go schmooze, basically.
It's great. So eventually, you know, after everyone gets the code word Gumball, they all go up to New York and they meet at a restaurant called Gallagher's. And that's where we also meet a police detective named Roscoe.
Roscoe, the only other name that I remember from this.
Yes. Roscoe was played by Norman Burton. He's pretty much just like the average beat cop detective 70s, you know.
Yeah.
But he was also in The Towering Inferno and Diamonds Are Forever. He was Felix Leiter in Diamonds Are Forever. And he was also in a couple old Planet of the Apes movies too. So
was he in ape makeup in those?
Planet of the Apes, he was just hunt leader, so I believe he was. And the other one was Escape from Planet of the Apes, where he played Army Officer. The amazing character,
probably like no speaking lines. Yeah,
Army Officer.
You know, Army Officer from one of the bad Planet of the Apes sequels.
A hunt leader for Planet of the Apes. It could very well be, you know, one of the ones where they have the nets, right? Maybe he has a speaking line in it.
Oh, he just some kind of like one line.
Yeah, he's like, it's Charlton Heston.
Perfect.
So he's kind of calling in and he's telling, you know, the other cops like, oh, they're all assembled at Gallagher's, right?
Yeah. You clearly know, you can tell that Roscoe, he knows these people and he kind of knows what's going on. You know, they all got the official invitation of Gumball, but it's almost like he got the invitation too. He knows what's about to go down.
That's weird to me though. Now that you've said it, because these people only get invites with the code word Gumball. I would have liked to have seen Michael Bannon give the cop the code word Gumball as if to taunt him.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was going to say that would be in character for him, especially when you see them interact at the end. You're right. It would be almost like a dare. Like, I bet you can't catch us.
Yes.
This time.
That would have been neat.
That would have been neat, yeah.
But everyone's assembled. And obviously, Michael Bannon, he's the one leading the pack. But there's also some Al Bundy, not Al Bundy, but Al Borland character from Home Improvement. He looks like Al Borland. He's just got like the mop top and the beard.
The beard, yeah, the 70s beard. He's kind of, he's the
like the second in command almost.
Yeah, right? Second in command, and he's kind of not really there's really no antagonist other than Roscoe. He's kind of the competition, I guess, the friendly competition.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, you know, if Michael Bannon is always the winner, this is the guy who comes in close second. Right.
And wants to beat the guy who has the record finally.
So they, you know, they assemble and they're like, oh, you all have the tools of the trade, everything that you guys need, which is just like a fast car. Right.
So I mean, the big thing is, and this intro scene doesn't really go on as long as you might expect. Thankfully, you can really get bogged down in here, but they at least do enough to set up what Gumball is, and you kind of figure it out at this point. But it's basically a race from New York to Long Beach, California, and there's no rules. Basically, just first car in the parking lot of some shipyard or something. You know, first car there wins basically, and get there as fast as you can.
2,900 miles, and the fastest was 34 hours and 11 minutes, held by Michael Bannon,
right,
the leader. So yeah, after they kind of like set up the whole like there are no rules, then we go into the montage of them fixing their cars and getting the cars ready. There's goofy dialogue like, we've installed the computer to get the weather report and to see the cops, and just these weird things.
I like this scene a lot, actually, because it almost does a better job of setting up your characters than the invitation montage that we got before.
1,000%.
Right? And it's almost, I think what does it for me is the cars in this scene. They show that like every car has a gimmick almost. Like there's that van that has the giant tank of gas in the back, so they don't need to stop. And then you're right, there's the one that they outfitted with the weather radio. And like every car is almost as much a character as the people who are driving them.
Yes.
And I feel like that adds a little bit of spice onto this movie to make it seem a little bit better.
Because you get to see the characters interact with their direct partner, but you also get to see them interact occasionally with their competition. And you can kind of see the playful jabs and them talking about their cars, because they're all car people, so they're all like tuning and listening and doing this and that, and
right, kind of scoping each other out, and fixing up what they think is like their big edge as part of their car. Yeah, whether it's like that big gas tank, or I think the cops have a good one too, where they've got like police decals from every state that they drive through.
Yes,
it's like such a cool thing.
I love that. Yeah, it's souping up the Mach 5, right?
Oh yeah.
As they're getting their cars ready, Michael Bannon's kind of like, "Hey, where's Raul Julia at?" And we see him smoozing with a woman. He's a smooth talker. He's Raul Julia. What I loved about this scene was the gag where you hear violins playing as they're making small talk, and then Raul Julia goes out into the hallway of this hotel, and there's actually violinists playing.
Yeah, like from a restaurant, practically, like a romantic restaurant. That's what it is, like a string quartet there.
He's so good in this. I think he's good in like almost everything that he does. Even Street Fighter, he's good. He's so
charming, and he gives his all too, because there's that part when he actually shows up after this scene, when he shows up in the garage, right?
Yes.
And you think he's pissed off because the other guys are like making fun of him and doing your mom jokes to him. And he's getting so pissed off, and he pulls out what you think is a real gun. And it turns out it's like a water gun, and squirts them with it.
It's awesome.
It's so great because he sells it. You think he's actually going to, like, there's going to be some serious violence that happens here. And it's like, you don't see that squirt gun gag coming, which we've all seen before, but he totally sells it.
He does. Like, his anger, his ferocity in that scene is so good.
Yes.
And then we also see that the detective, he's in his car, he's on the squawk box, right? And he's like, okay, they're gonna go and do the race tomorrow. They're gonna leave from this direction, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Unbeknownst to the detective, everyone in the Gumball Rally is also listening on. And they're kind of like, oh, I bet we will, kind of like they're gonna prank him.
Yep.
Meanwhile, there's also this weird, I won't say plot thread, but there's also the mechanic guy, right? Like, there's the mechanic for the Gumball people.
Oh yeah, he's not really an official. I mean, he's not an official entrant. Like, he didn't get the Gumball invitation, but he works in the garage where everyone's tuning up, and he wants in basically, but he doesn't have a car.
And he does the thing from The Hitcher where he gets hired to drive a car across the country, and he gets this like old-timey Mercedes to do it in.
Yeah, it's a really kind of classy, rich person kind of car.
Yeah,
it's not a hot rod.
I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, I also like the next scene where they're choosing the selection of where they start off in the race, and they're pulling the numbers out of the hubcap, and everyone's just having a good time. It just really worked. You could buy that these people are all friends.
Yeah, it's kind of like, this is the yearly friend meetup that they do every year. Like, some people go camping, or some people, meet up at a cabin and go hunting or something. Like, this is their thing every year that they do. And you can tell that it's a very friendly competition.
Yeah.
It's not kind of mean-spirited in any way.
And
it's just kind of refreshing.
Yes. I'm glad that the movie never went in that direction. At no point in the movie did anything ever feel mean-spirited. It was always for the gag.
Yep. And I think, honestly, it was about this time that I realized, like, wow, you can definitely tell the difference sometimes between a canon movie and a non-canon movie. Because that if canon made this, there would be some kind of weird like rapey quality to Raul Julia's character.
I was about to say, Raul Julia would have raped someone if it was a canon film.
They would absolutely put that in there as some like horrible sleazy attempt to get TNA in the movie. And like the second piece, if it was canon, that this whole race and the dynamic between the contestants, it would be way more overtly adversarial, and there would be way more violence, and like someone would be sabotaging someone else's brake lines.
Yes.
And it would just be way meaner.
Gary Busey's character would have been like a racist, right? Because they're the Southern good old boys.
Yeah, like every character would be dialed up to 11 and just meaner is the best way that I can think about it.
Meaner. People would be dying, actively dying.
Yes, violent and genuinely offensive, because that would be, I don't know. Yeah, that's just the vibe that I get from all the other movies that we've seen so far. You get a feel for what kinds of things they like to dial up just to get butts in seats, and that would be it.
It's the shock factor, right?
Shock factor. Perfect. Yeah.
So as the racers are about to get ready to depart, Michael Bannon, he goes out and he sabotages the detective's car, as to prevent him from getting police help. We see him snip off the antenna so he can't use his radio. And then he like moves the mirrors around, which, okay, that's not that bad, but still.
I wasn't really sure about that. Was it just so he wouldn't see flashes of things out of the corner of his eye as they pulled out? I guess.
Maybe. I don't know. Cheeky antics, right? So all the racers, they're in their cars, they're revving up, and they start to go out. And the police detective, he realizes that it's happening, and he starts trying to call dispatch. No one's answering. He tries to drive forward. His wheels fall off. It's all comedic. There's like gags, and
it's very very Looney Tunes quality to it. Yeah.
The best gag then happens though, as all the racers are getting out. There's these two that are still stuck in the garage, and their car doesn't start. And they're like not upset at all. They're just like, the car's not starting, man.
maybe the float's jammed.
Yeah.
Oh, it could be the car, but like just very nonchalantly, they've accepted their fate that they're basically not going to win, and you can hear the clicks as they're trying to start the car, getting it to turn over.
I loved it
because they cut to them throughout the whole rest of the movie, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And as they're like progressively taking apart the car more and more. Great gag.
Yes. Episode 1 when Ben Quadranero's
the fact that that character's name, that side character in the pod racing scene, you colossal nerd.
Ben Quadranero's pod race didn't start, and the engines flew up, and then he blew up. I loved it. Oh, that's gotta hurt.
That's gotta hurt. God damn. I hate stupid fucking episode 1.
That was Greg Proops right there too. And then he does the la, 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 la thing. Anyways, we don't get any of episode 1 humor in this. We get, I think, like the longest race scene encapsulated in one area is the racers getting out of New York, right?
I think it's the best too.
It's definitely,
you see them. I mean, in other movies like this, you can probably tell sometimes they'll like speed up the footage to make the cars look like they're going faster than they really were when they filmed it. I don't think they did that at all in these. Like, they are legitimately hauling ass in Manhattan.
Yes.
In these cars going like 80, 90 miles an hour. And I mean, they must have cleared out the streets early in the morning to get these shots, because it looks awesome.
It does. Yeah. And it's exactly because when they speed up camera footage, you can usually see the bounce, in the camera itself. And it looks so hokey, right? Like the shaking
Very
of the
hokey.
camera.
Yeah.
But this looks just like the cars are hauling ass through New York. It was definitely great. And the sound design, because there wasn't really much music going on. And you just hear the roar of the engines echoing down the long stretches of the New York City streets.
Yep. Bouncing around and in like echoing in the skyscrapers. It's one of those things where if I were a proper car person, I would probably appreciate this even more. But even as a regular Joe who not really into cars, even I thought like, wow, this is really cool. Like these things they're like tearing around corners and drifting around corners and just going super like it's just it's a cool car scene that I think even regular people can enjoy
100%,
or
definitely.
appreciate.
Meanwhile, the detective is running through the city trying to get a hold of the police, and he goes to a phone booth, and a homeless man comes up to him and sticks him up. Uh, okay, so he makes the detective take his pants off, and I was like, "Whoa, where is this gag going?"
This got canon all of a sudden.
Exactly. But then I realized that it's not going to go that way, and he made him drop his pants so he can't run after him. Right?
I assumed it was like take off your pants because that's where your wallet and keys are. I don't know
Okay,
why I
yeah,
thought that.
I could
I
see
think it
that
was.
too.
I think you're right though. I think I'm just crazy. I think it was just you're less likely to chase after me if you're running around in your underwear.
Well, immediately I thought it was going to be some like
Sexual thing.
sexual thing.
Oh man, if only Death Wish were around to avenge him all this petty street crime.
I
Get Paul Kersey up in there with a hand cannon.
don't in the movie they even reference
They do.
yes. So
We'll get to that. Yeah, I don't want to spoil that.
so anyways, the racers they're driving through like the tunnel in New York. Again,
Mhm.
like all of these scenes of them driving through New York are
Really fast. Yeah, it's
really
cool.
awesome, really fast. I totally buy every second of what they're doing. And then
Oh,
oh, go ahead.
before we get off the racing through New York, I just want to mention, I'm not sure if you picked up on this. They drive by a restaurant at one point called Delmonico's. Did you notice that? Because it's the same location as the Hotel Continental from John Wick.
Oh, really?
It is.
Nice.
I think it's only like a quick flash. I think a quick flash you get maybe once or twice as they kind of round the corner, but it is 100% that location.
Awesome. So
I
this
just
is
thought, yeah, kind of a cool little thing. Must be a
it's in
iconic building.
the canon of John Wick, Wickdom.
Oh man, that would be cool.
So
There's the Russian team too.
oh, exactly, yeah. Uh, uh, I know they didn't do there was no nudity in this film, which I was actually kind of surprised about. I don't know about
Yes.
you, but
Surprisingly family friendly in that regard.
if there was a canon moment, this is it. So the mechanic who gets the Rolls Royce, he goes to pick up his girlfriend who's doing a photo shoot in she's wearing a very sexy United States bikini.
Yes, like a flag bikini top.
Yes, the part that's really canon is the person taking the photos is like, "Come on, you hussy."
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, it was we were bound to get a little bit of like, homophobia, sexism, racism, something somewhere. We were bound to get a little bit of it. Thankfully, it's really just this spot where, yeah, the photographer, he's kind of a little too flamboyant. He's kind of a caricature.
which is surprising too.
Yeah.
It's surprising that it's really encapsulated in just this one scene.
Yeah. Could have been way worse for sure.
And then also around the same marker, we get our first car that gets a DNF.
Yes.
As it's driving this, I don't know, cars. This white car is
this white sports car.
Yeah, it's driving down a back alley and it goes up a dirt pile. And as it slams back down onto the ground, it literally snaps in half.
Yeah, like the passenger seats in the back, just kind of the entire ass end of the car is, gone basically.
Some guy comes up and he's like, "Hey, did you see that big old pile of dirt over there?"
This was that was actually the runner up for quote of the week on this movie because it was I actually laughed out loud on this. It was a great gag. He says, "Hey, just there's a hole back there?" And the driver says, "No shit."
Yeah.
It's so great.
I really liked that part. It was
good gag.
It was good that they started off with very quickly in the race eliminating people, because I guess we didn't really set this up. There's like 8-10 different racers, but you only or cars that are racing, but you only really get to meet a couple of them.
Yeah.
Some of them are just background characters.
It's good. You're right that they eliminated some because I think it would have been too much if they tried to focus on all of them, like give them all things to do throughout the rest of the movie. They had to thin the pack a little bit.
Exactly. Eventually, the mechanic he meets up with his girlfriend. He's like, "Hey, we're gonna go to California." She's not too keen on it at first, but she eventually goes along with it because that's the movie, right? As they
He basically kidnaps her.
as they finally get out of New York City, Greg, my favorite part is Gary Busey and his partner roll up to the toll booth. Gary Busey is sitting in the passenger seat and he's tossing coins over the car to get into the toll booth coin dispenser, and he's missing every time.
It's just air balls every time,
Yes.
and he runs out of quarters. It's like, shit, man, I'm out of quarters.
Yeah, he goes out of the car. He's looking for quarters. Eventually, his partner just runs the toll booth, and then Gary Busey just starts putting in quarters for other cars, and he's just like, "Keep going, keep going." If I was ever in a situation where I was with Gary Busey and we were at a toll booth, I'd be like, "You have to do this from the Gumball Rally for me. Here's a sock of quarters."
Just hang out here and pay everyone's toll. It's such a random, nonsensical Gary Busey thing.
It's one of those moments where the character is giving something to do that's so mundane. Put the money in the toll booth dispenser thing, right?
Mhm.
But they make it funny. They make doing something mundane funny
Yeah,
and endearing because you immediately see it and you're like, "Oh, I wish he was in my car doing fun stuff like that."
he's such a goofy road trip partner.
Yeah. Uh we
Oh,
see the female partners. They're driving and they're quizzing each other on trucker lingo, right? They're like, "What's a
is that what they were
smoky?
doing?
What's this? What's that?" And you can tell that they're again these scenes, these quick scenes with each other. It's just to show that they're working really well with their respective partner, right?
Right.
What's great is that a movie nowadays, one of the characters, one of the partners, they'd have some kind of like strife between them, right? Like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
racing with you in honor of my brother. He died when he was in the army with you, and you're the reason he got killed," right? It'd be
They try to
something,
inject some kind of conflict
yeah,
between the partners.
it'd be something goofy like that. But this movie is just like, fuck it, have fun. This is what we're doing. Uh
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, it's not mean at all. And even between the partners, they don't try to inject, they don't try to complicate the plot by having a lot of like interpersonal conflict, apart from just, oh, we want to be first.
yes. There's other quick flashes of like Raul Julia. He's driving with his partner, and Raul Julia is essentially like, "We're gonna stop throughout this race and have sex with women," and his partner's like, "No,
With
we're not."
beautiful women.
And it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, "Oh, this is so goofy. It's so much fun."
And the fact that they set it up early on, and it continues to be a major plot point because it's their kind of like Achilles heel, this racing team. And you can tell it was in a canon movie, like we said before, it would have been an excuse for TNA early on, and it never would have come up again. But it continues to be a plot point for this team, and it's great.
Because at one point, and as they exit New York, Raul Julia and his partner, they stop for gas, and Raul Julia is like putting on cologne, but he's sniffing the air, and he can smell a woman is near, and you're
Oh
just
my
kind of
God,
going like,
yeah.
"Oh my god, this is so insane."
In a lesser movie, it would be weird and creepy, but if it just works here, it's not creepy. It's more, like I said before, it's more of like a Looney Tunes character, like a Pepe Le Pew,
Yeah,
kind of like the joke is on him, basically.
exactly.
It's great.
Um, Again, we cut back to some of my favorite one, Busey and his partner. Busey has to pee, and essentially his partner's like, "I'm not going to pull over, just piss in a bottle," which I think almost every guy has done in a road trip at one point. I know I've done it.
I will proudly proclaim that I've never tried that because I know that will only end poorly.
Oh, it always does. But when I'm driving down to Florida, I can't stop. I have to just pee in a bottle.
Gotta make good time.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happens. Gary Busey starts complaining that he's pissing all over his pants and his hands, and it's so funny. I just crack up because, again, I remember I've been on road trips with guys peeing in bottles. It just happens sometimes.
It's part of the male road trip experience.
Exactly.
All the women listening are just like, fucking gross.
I know. There's we eventually get to the point where the van, you brought up the van earlier in the movie.
Yes.
The van has a huge tank of gas. Its gag was that it would not have to stop. Right? It's going to make it the entire way from New York to California.
Which is kind of genius, actually.
Yes. Exactly. It was slow and steady, right? We never have to stop, but we're not going to be the fastest either.
Exactly. They
hit a piece of road debris and they start springing a leak of gas. At the same time, it was a cop, right? He like throws a cigarette butt out the window.
Yeah, I think it was a cop. Yeah, he just kind of like flicks a spent cigarette out, and guess where it lands?
The gas catches fire, and it eventually leads to the van. The people driving the van realize that the fire's coming from behind them, and they're like, "We can't outrun this." And they crash into a fireworks stand. And then,
of course they do.
The van blows up, and then the fireworks start going off, and they're like the next DNF, right? Again, just so like
good.
What a fun, goofy thing to do.
Again, I keep saying it, but I'll say it again. It's like a Looney Tunes episode. Like, of course they run into a fireworks factory. Of course there's one right there.
Yes.
It's kind of goofy, hammy comedy.
I like that the old men were only really racing against this guy on a motorcycle, because anytime that the old men show up, the guy on the motorcycle shows up, right? And the two old guys are driving, and they're just kind of like talking to each other, and they're like, "Oh, hey, there goes the motorcycle chap." And then the motorcyclist zooms right by, and he hits a swarm of bugs.
Yeah, like butterflies or something.
And it obscures his vision, and he goes flying off onto a ramp through a billboard.
That was an insane stunt.
It was, and it was a real stunt too.
Yeah, I mean, if you can imagine, it's just like Phil said, he ramps. I mean, it's got to be 20, 30 feet in the air. And this guy, I mean, a person really drove a motorcycle off a ramp through a billboard.
Yes.
And you could tell he was on a wire because they kind of pulled him back as he went through, and the billboard wasn't real, but it looked painfully real.
It did.
It was great.
A couple more highlights of the Gary Busey character. Him and his partner are driving. Busey complains that the road is boring. That's just signs for nothing. And he's like, "There was a reptile garden back there. I could see one of those boa contractors."
You idiot! It's constrictor.
And then he says something about a fart horn. He's like, "Hey man, where's that fart horn coming from?"
It's like the best toilet humor.
Yeah,
it's great.
He has that juvenile humor, but it's still funny. It's not, cringy.
Yeah, I wish I understood more about, like the technical aspects of making comedy that works, because you just know when it does and you know when it doesn't. It's hard to figure out why. But when you compare the comedy in this to Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype, which will always be the bar for us for bad comedy.
Yes.
I don't know what it is, but it's because the substance of the jokes is really not all that different, but it just works in this movie.
I think it 100% comes down to the person who's saying it. And when you see Gary Busey's character, especially a young Gary Busey, you kind of go like, I buy that this guy's a hick, right?
Yeah.
But when you get some anthropomorphic lump of clay,
oh God,
you don't really buy it, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a big part of it is is delivery and who's delivering it. And yeah, Gary Busey, he's just got that physical comedy presence that it's not annoying when he mispronounces boa constrictor.
Exactly. You laugh at it.
You laugh at him, you laugh at it. It's funny.
And maybe I'll just ostracize another actor from ever replying back to us on Twitter. I think it's like those big horse teeth and just like the goofy look that he has in his eyes. It's just endearing.
There's something to be said about some people just aren't like classically good looking.
Yeah.
Boy, they make comedy sometimes.
Steve Buscemi.
As bad as it sounds.
He's got the face of a pug, but fuck, is he an amazing actor?
He's great. Poor Gary Busey.
Gary Busey.
We love you.
If you're listening, Gary Busey, I absolutely love you. I adore you. So and that's like what the movie is, right? It's a lot of gags and stunts. There's another really amazing stunt that comes up in the movie where Raul Julia's character and his partner, the cops know that they're coming down this stretch of road.
Oh yeah.
And they call on essentially like Optimus Prime. And Optimus Prime, he opens up the back hatch of his 18-wheeler.
Yep, big old semi.
And these two, in real life, it's not a miniature, it's not some optical effect. They drive a car into the back of a moving 18-wheeler. It looked amazing.
Speed. Yeah, I mean, it's because they draw back on the camera and you see everything. You're right. It's really happening. There's a stunt driver actually doing this, and I mean they have to be going like at least 60, 70 miles an hour when they filmed it.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
And it's not one of those things where they could have just done it in reverse because you see the cars obviously moving forward. And so there's no optical effect or digital effect, obviously. But it again, it was just one of those things where if this was a Fast and the Furious movie, that would have been CG. They never would have done that in real life. Some
kind of trigger. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's probably for the best that they don't do dangerous things like that on the regular anymore. But man, when they do it, it always comes across.
And Craig, I'm going to say the exact opposite of what you just said. It's fucked that they don't do stuff like that in movies anymore, because nothing takes me out of a movie than when I see real people doing real things and then it turns into some rubber CG model of.
Oh yeah.
Like I want to see car stunts. I think that people have been, and I say this with no knowledge, all right? Totally coming out of my ass. We have been doing car stunts in movies for how long now? Some of this stuff should be like a science, Right. It should be like, how did they do this in the Gumball Rally? Well, they just drove the car up the ramp, right?
True, yeah.
So I love seeing it.
Don't take that the wrong way. I'm not like advocating, they should CG that stuff, but I'm sure there's a way to do that now to where they can do it safely. Repeatably.
Because this is probably not safe. These
I get the very distinct impression that they just did it, and oh god, thank God that stunt guy didn't die.
They wiped the sweat off their brow.
Yeah, we only got one take.
So obviously everyone's moving forward. I don't think there's really too many people that have dropped out of the race.
No, not for a while. And I mean, aside from that we know that they're making forward progress. You sort of, as these scenes kind of we jump back and forth to different racers, you sort of see the scenery start to change a little bit, because we got like the suburbs of New York. Although I would argue that that's not suburbs, because you could plainly see giant ass mountains on the horizon.
Oh yeah.
I do not exist in Pennsylvania. But yeah, you like slowly start to see it change, and then it becomes more kind of open plains and desert. I think we're in like the Midwest at this point in the movie.
Exactly. We're at the next pit stop, and this is the part where Raul Julia again sees a woman, and he's begging his partner to let him have sex with her.
Please, we can take the time.
Yeah, and his partner's like, no, get in the car. We're leaving. And Raul Julia is so upset. even though his entire existence, his entire purpose of this movie is to be the racing partner.
Yep.
He's like, dude, come on, I could have sex.
But she's a beautiful woman.
Yeah, exactly. And then we also finally meet back up. There's a long stretch where we don't see the female partners, but we eventually see them again, and they're driving, reading their map, stuff like that. Two young guys pull up next to them, and one of the women go, "If you can catch us, you can have us," which again is a very canon thing to do in a film, right?
Yeah.
The whole like, we're going to use sex as a motivator, and she shoots off in her car. And the gag for this is that the car breaks down, and eventually the young guys come forward, and
we don't see what happens.
No, I will give the movie that. It at least
Thank
doesn't
God.
have some like sleazy sex scene where
So that's yeah.
one woman's in one car and another woman's in the other car.
You know exactly, if this were a canon movie, we know exactly how this scene would play out. Like these two guys, it wouldn't be kind of a goofy coincidence to have the car break down. These guys would be genuinely creepy, dangerous looking rapists, basically. Yeah. And we would see that scene happen.
But they're just like two fun loving hillbilly guys.
Yeah, kind of goofy cowboy guys.
We cut to Raul Julia having sex with a woman. Very tasteful though. You don't know nudity or anything like that. They're just kissing. It's very tasteful.
Very tasteful. Maybe a little bit too much of a close-up.
Yeah.
For my comfort, but
it's interspliced with people driving and revving engines, and you can kind of, double entendre, right? Like, what's happening.
Yeah. The race is going on without him, but he's got his own race going.
And then you just see the two old guys. You cut back to the two old guys, and they're like singing. They're having a great time. And again, they set up the gags so perfectly. They hit a patch of ice. And they're like, "Oh, ice, that was slippery." And then the guy on the motorcycle zooms by, hits the ice patch, and goes flying into some trees.
God, just launches off the edge of the highway. he's like 50 feet up in a tree.
Yeah, I love it. I love his character. And it's so weird because his character never says a word throughout the entire film. I was just going to say,
yeah, he's completely silent. I mean, I think he makes grunts and screams, but that's about it.
And the actor who plays him, his name is Harvey Jason. He has been in a ton of stuff.
Like, good for him.
TV, movies, he's done it all. Yeah, so it's not like that this guy was just a one and done kind of guy. He was actually in the Lost World, Jurassic Park.
Really?
AJ in that.
Some kind of a comic relief side character, I assume.
If I remember, he was also in Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh my God.
Yes. As well. He was Felix Leach. Does that one?
Felix Leach. No, doesn't ring a bell like the other one did.
So AJ in the Lost World, he's the guy who gets eaten by the Compsognathus, not the Russian guy, Peter Stormare, but the other one, if that makes sense. There was like two who got eaten by him.
Wait, which dinosaur?
I'm gonna the little ones, like the little the Compsognathus.
This was the guy. He was getting chased, and he jumped over the log, and then they all jumped over the log after him, and you see the water go red.
Yeah, I just sent you a picture of him from the movie.
Hang on a second. Oh,
he's the one that goes like, "Don't go into the long grass."
Yeah, he is the sidekick of Pete Postlethwaite.
Yes,
his character.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Yeah. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that name, but either way, good for him. Like he's got kind of a unique look, and he's got a physicality. Like I could believe that he'd have a long career as kind of like a character actor.
And if there was anyone who was going to be the bad guy, I assumed it was going to be him because he wears black throughout the movie, and he doesn't say anything, and he rides the motorcycle. He's the only one that rides the motorcycle.
Yeah, and actually, come to think of it, in the intro scene, he's the only one who seems like he's not friends with everyone else.
Yeah.
He doesn't say anything there either, but he kind of freaks out and runs out at one point.
But
You're
he's
right.
just a weird guy,
Just a weird dude.
and he's the butt of all the jokes, and it works. It works.
And has all the crazy stunts on that motorcycle.
Yeah. And then we go, the next gag is that the model and the mechanic, they're at a gas station, and they're getting razzed by a biker gang. And then they run over the bike, and they start keying the car, and then the cops show up, and there's just all this goofiness because they're supposed to deliver this Rolls Royce unharmed, and now it's getting all trashed.
It's getting trashed. Yeah, we see it get keyed here. I know it gets sandblasted at one point with like a sandstorm. Was that like right after this?
It's right after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it like strips all the paint off of it.
It's great.
The worst gag in the film is the one that involves the police officers.
Yeah.
And it goes on for way too long. So the police officers, they cross into a different state, and they forget to change the tags and everything else like that on their police car.
Right. They're kind of fake police banners and things.
And they get pulled over by the real cops, and then the two fake cops start to act like they're making a movie. They somehow dupe the real cop into believing that everything is being filmed, that there's cameras. You just can't see them. They're on the mountain ridge, and
they're way on the mountain. Right.
The gag just goes on for way too long, and I think it only lasts for 5 minutes, but that says something about a bad gag, right?
Yeah, it feels its length.
So eventually the cops get out of that situation, and then there's just more high speed racing between Raul Julia and the main character Bannon. Just them kind of going back and forth.
Right.
Gary Busey, meanwhile, their AC or something like that is broke, so they're blasting the heater to keep the engine cool.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, because either like the engine's overheating, so either they have to pump the hot air into the cabin to keep the engine cool, and they're just roasting.
Yes, and Gary Busey is playing the harmonica, and his partner's like, "Will you stop that?" It's just like really fun.
Why did he have that in the car to begin with?
Who knows? Because he wasn't really playing it. He was just like breathing into it, in and out, in and out.
Just the most annoying possible thing you can imagine while being blasted with hot air, because they're well into the desert at this point. Just the most annoying thing you could possibly think to happen.
Exactly. The desert part, the desert stuff lasts for quite a bit. The Mercedes, it gets sandblasted. It's like all the paint gets stripped off of it. And we're getting to the end of the race here. We eventually get to California. I thought that this part was really neat, where Raul Julia's character and his partner and Steve Buscemi and his partner, they actually go down into like, what do you call it? Like
I think
the rain like runoff.
Yeah, they're like flash flood spillways.
Yeah, the spillways. And they're racing in the spillway, like from Terminator 2.
Exactly. Like I was just gonna say, it reminds me of that awesome scene in Terminator 2 where the T-1000's chasing Arnold on the dirt bike down into the spillway, and they do the same thing here, and it looks awesome.
It does, because you got like the water kind of, there's still water in there, and it's splashing everywhere, and it just looks really cool because you get these aerial shots of them racing, and the cars are kind of spinning out.
Yeah, and some of the shots are really, you mentioned the aerial shots. I think these are really cool also. I mean, not just because they're in a cool location for racing, but they linger on the shot for a really long time, so you really see the geography of them like winding through the turns. Like, it's not, how do I describe it? You're not getting those really rapid, nauseatingly rapid cuts that you might get in a more modern version of this.
Yes.
It's nice that they linger on the shot and let you like see them move throughout the geography of the scene. It's really cool.
Exactly. Like modern action films, it's very tight, lots of cuts. You don't get to see the punches getting thrown. You just see the cuts.
lots of shaky cam too. It's whereas like these aerial shots are nice and like they're stable and they pan as the
Exactly.
cars move.
They let the action play out because it's really good. There's nothing
Yeah.
to hide. It looks awesome.
Some quality. I feel like we haven't done a good enough job to this point to really at praising the stunt driving that basically makes this movie. Period.
Oh yeah.
Because it like all the stunt drivers that they had were top notch, and I'm assuming none of the actors are doing it. I hope.
I hope not,
But
because the next stunt, Gary Busey
yes,
and his partner, they get onto the highway, and in order to weave through the traffic, they get their car to go up on two wheels, and they're driving like that for quite a bit. And I was like, wow, that's still really cool to see.
impressive stunt driving. Yeah.
The guy on the motorcycle is weaving in and out of the traffic, and someone opens up the door and he goes flying off, like a really great stunt.
And that's again, it looks like they really did that.
Yes.
I mean, I'm assuming he was on a wire or something that we didn't see, but it looked really painful.
It looked good. The mechanic eventually delivers the Mercedes to the guy. The guy does not care about the Mercedes at all. He steals the girlfriend though, because the guy's rich. I guess
That's right.
That's how it is.
I think because there's the whole subplot with them was he's trying to, I don't know why he wanted her to come with him to begin with, but he was giving all this like crap stories like, oh well, we'll get to LA and you'll get discovered as an actress and blah 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 blah, and just to like get her to go along with this whole race. I think that's why, because maybe he was like a producer or something, and she thought that she was going to get a, he's like, oh, you're an actress, aren't you? I mean, he's clearly just like trying to get with her, but yeah, it was a little weird. But I'm guessing that's their rationale in the movie.
Exactly. That's just their arc. It's simple.
Yeah.
So now we finally, it's just another tight race between Raul Julia and Steve Buscemi's character. As they're racing, they flash forward a little bit down the road, and there's a beautiful blonde on the side of the road, and you can tell what's about to happen. Because Raul Julia loves women. He stops during the race to schmooze with her.
It's so good because they set up in a line earlier than that. The other cars, like, hopefully plan A is in place, and you don't know what it is, but it's clearly like this is like their last like ace up their sleeve to get the other car out of commission. And then they cut to this woman, hitchhiking on the side of the road. It's like,
yes,
damn, that's genius.
She adjusts her bust and like pushes her boobs up to accentuate them more. It's really great. Steve Bannon and his partner, they win.
Bannon?
Steve Bannon, Michael Bannon, who cares? Michael Bannon, Steve Buscemi's character wins. Raul Julia and his partner's looking very bummed. Raul Julia runs out of the car and he goes and he starts just making out with the blonde.
He does not give a shit about this race anymore.
Yeah. And then we see at night everyone's assembled again. They're given the gumball machine to Michael Bannon. There is the detective, and they're kind of talking to each other. And again, they have that moment where they have this history. Now,
right,
we don't see Michael Bannon and the detective really have any conversation throughout the entire movie except for this point, but you can definitely tell that they like the cat and mouse aspect of their relationship. And this is where I was kind of expecting him to go like, are you ready for the next time, and kind of give him a wink,
yeah.
But that doesn't really happen. The detective says like, I'm gonna retire, and Michael's like, yeah, I'm probably gonna retire too.
And you can kind of tell that neither of them really believe each other.
Exactly. After that little exchange, a bunch of tow trucks and cop cars show up, and the detective's like, you're illegally parked, and he starts towing all of their cars.
So good. Roscoe got him in the end.
Oh, what a great gag there. As the cars start getting towed away, Michael is talking to the home improvement guy. Right. Oh, and the old men pull up out of nowhere. as they're talking, they're kind of like, oh, look, it's the old guys. And they're like,
They
oh,
made it. Yay.
hey, we're old, blah, blah, blah. They start talking like, hey, how are we going to get back to New York without any cars? And Michael gets this schemy look and he's like, Gumball. And now it's a race back to New York. And
I'll start repeating it.
As everyone starts assembling and saying Gumball to each other, the man in the motorcycle shows up again, crashes through a bunch of tables out into the ocean, and that's the credits.
Yep, we get a freeze frame of him hitting the water outside this kind of finish line party, and that's Gumball Rally.
So two things I'm really surprised about. One, how this movie caused such a sensation to make, Cannonball Run, Speed Zone, another movie called Cannonball, has not associated with Cannonball Run. How it spurred this, race across America kind of, movement for movies.
This like a subgenre
Yeah.
almost.
And the fact that this one never got a sequel.
Wow. Okay, that's genuinely surprising. That was actually a question that I have written down here that I wanted to ask you because you would know. Did this get any sequels? Because I mean, I had a great time watching this. I can imagine it got a lot of. It sounds like it did well in the box office. It sounds like it would have pretty wide appeal. I was going to add, did it get any sequels? But that's surprising. It didn't.
No, it did not. The only thing, but beyond the movies that it inspired, it did also create the real Gumball Rally, where this is now an actual thing that people do.
Awesome.
Some of it is official, some of it not so official, but there is a Gumball 3000 international race.
That's awesome.
Yes. So this did actually have real world impacts. And I think that's really neat when, stuff like that happens, right?
It was clearly such a novel idea on the part of the writers that it resonated with regular people because they went to go see the movie and enjoyed it, but it resonated with car people. It's like, wow, that's a genius idea. And I'm sure this kind of stuff had been done before, but the idea that it would stick in the public consciousness like that and continue to today, that's awesome.
Yes. So yeah, the movie did inspire a bunch of other movies. It created actual real world races. A big influence on popular culture within like the 70s and 80s. So what did you think overall? What are you going to give the Gumball Rally, Greg?
It's like a 4.5 out of 5.
Oh wow.
I really enjoyed watching this. I hope it came across. Maybe it didn't, but honestly, I think I've mentioned this in other episodes where I can judge typically how well I enjoy a movie by how much notes I have got in my text file here. And usually when I enjoy it a lot, I'll have fewer notes because I'm so focused on just watching and having fun.
Exactly.
That's the case here for sure. And just, I mean, the stunts, the acting was fine, but it was consistently funny, rarely boring. And yeah, just, it was a fun watch.
Exactly. It was very rarely boring. There's only one gag in the entire film that I just didn't like. And this again, like Gas Pump Girls, this is a Sunday movie. You have it on.
Oh yeah.
It's inoffensive because the gags are so self-contained and short. If you miss one, it's okay.
Yeah.
The next one is just around the corner. I think I had a really great time with it. The only issue that I had with the movie, and we've touched upon it, a lot of these characters, you don't know their names, or they're just background fluff.
They're kind of one-dimensional.
But I think that's better, because then if you want to flesh out those characters more, you get Saharid, where
you get Saharid.
Do you really want to know about Brooke Shields? Well, let's kidnap her and throw her in the desert, right?
Let's see which rape tribe she falls for.
Exactly. For me, the movie is like a 3.5.
Okay.
Close 4. I think this is definitely one that I will rewatch for sure. Uh,
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned how kind of family friendly it is. I was actually surprised. I kind of anticipated it would be, but surprised at how much it really is inoffensive in pretty much every way. It's yeah, it's definitely. Again, it goes back to the fact that I think this would have a lot of mass appeal, even for like non-car people like me. It just seems like a fun movie that you would be able to take a family to go see. So I'm not surprised at all that it did well.
exactly. So, are you ready for some Gumball related trivia?
Absolutely, I am.
So, I'm assuming beyond the stunts, all of the actors actually were driving their cars. So there's
I
never a
was
moment
wondering about
where,
that.
like the far shots is someone else. The trivia for the movie is that the actors are doing all of their own stunts.
Because you know those shots where it's like the camera's rigged on the hood and it's facing them sitting in the car in the driver's seat. I wondered if that was actually they were driving and the camera was just rigged on the hood like I thought, or if it was one of those cases where I think we've seen in more modern movies where they've got like a tractor trailer that's pulling the car along. So they're in the driver's seat, but they're not actually controlling the car. There's like a stunt driver that's pulling the car along behind camera.
Yeah,
It sounds like they didn't do that this like where they actually just
they were
they're in
just
the car, they're just driving it with the camera
just
mounted to it.
driving with the camera mounted to it. I think that's so cool.
That's awesome.
Instead of just having that, I guess, because you can tell when an actor is acting driving, and you can tell when an actor is actually having to drive. Right? When they act like they're driving, they're constantly jerking the steering wheel back and forth. Like, look at me, I'm driving. You know?
And they're not looking at the road nearly as often as you would have to not die.
Exactly.
Like
Because like when I drive with my kid, he's like, Dad, look at this. I was like, I'm looking at the road, T. I don't want to die.
we're gonna go off this bridge if I do, bud.
Yeah, exactly. So, it definitely added a little more realism
Believability to
to
it,
the
yeah, for
to the
sure.
movie. The detective character,
Roscoe.
Roscoe, a month after this movie, he died in a car crash. Little
Oh.
downer there. Um, just thought it
Oh.
was kind of weird. It's always like when an actor does something like Paul Walker, right? When
I'll
he
say it's like a Paul Walker scenario where they're known. I mean, maybe less so Roscoe's case, but the fact that it was after he filmed a movie about car racing,
yeah,
kind of an unfortunate coincidence.
and then so in the beginning of the movie, they said that in order to get the world record, they needed to do like 92.7 miles per hour throughout to get to
Average.
the average, right? And then at the end, I believe the character beats the time again, right? That's like another one of the things like, hey, we beat our best time.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
remember the time.
if apparently if you do the math, it's mathematically impossible for them to have done that based off of the time that they leave and the time that they arrive, because they were only going an average of 85 miles per hour. Don't ask me to do the math. I'm just reading what someone has said here.
IMDb guy says it's wrong.
Uh,
It's wrong.
so it's kind of interesting. I always like when movies they do like, oh, we got like 60 seconds, or when the time matches up with what they're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
But
I
whatever.
guess in a movie like this, you kind of have to distort the laws of space and time a little bit to
In a movie like this,
make it entertaining.
I'm not going to be like, well, actually,
Actually, it couldn't be going that fast because blah, 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 blah.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
don't care, dude. The movie was fun and engaging.
It was
It doesn't matter.
lots of fun. So we kind of, I think we regrouped a little bit because we had a string of loser movies there.
Yeah, I was gonna say this was a nice. I'm glad we did and other similar movies after our retrospective because I feel like we needed to palate cleanse a little bit, see something good before we pull on our waders and get back in the muck with the canon library.
But we're not going to go back in the muck.
Oh ho!
We're going to break down some walls. We're going to break down what makes a movie really good. We're going to take a break with breaking. That's right. We're gonna push it to pop it, rock it to lock it, break it to make it. For the break of your life, breaking.
I think I just died a little inside.
So I'm kind of surprised that this movie, but I guess there are dance movies that still happen, right? Like Step Up.
I don't know what you're talking about. Is that like another breakdancing movie?
Yeah. Wow. You never heard of the Step Up movies?
I guess not.
Channing Tatum was in them.
Really?
Yeah.
Like pre Magic Mike?
Yeah, that's
Channing
what kind of
Tatum?
like made Channing Tatum popular.
Step Up film franchise? Get out of here.
First off, you need to get out of here. I can't believe you don't know what Step Up is.
I guess I was just asleep. Wow,
Yeah.
2006. Okay, so I still had cable at that point. So I'm sure I was exposed to advertisements for this.
So this is the next one that we're watching. Breakin' is the 1984 comedy drama musical. I don't think they sing. I think they dance. It's probably drama in the sense of like we're gonna make it big, but like there's people oppressing us, and we gotta dance through the
yeah,
struggle.
That's true. The motivation of the main character is going to be something like, their family life is not so great, or they lose a family member or something. They've got to dance to save the neighborhood or something.
Dance to save the neighborhood. Oh my god! I hope it's that. That's insane.
Did we just write Breakin'?
I think so. And I won't reveal too much, but I can see why this movie for canon was a success. Looking at the budget, it's only $1.2 million. So obviously anything that it did was going to be more than the budget.
Yeah, like even just modest success would get back the production cost.
Exactly. It's like making a horror movie, right? Small investment,
cheap to produce,
good return on investment.
Yep.
So, but before we drive away from the Gumball Rally, I almost said Cannonball Run again. I am determined to see that
movie.
Oh
man,
what was the quote of the week?
The quote of the week came, I think it was right after that awesome stunt where they drove into the semi. The other car, these guys, they whipped past them as the truck had gotten pulled over, and they were talking about how, can you imagine doing this drive across the country at 55 miles an hour? And there's a really great exchange that I'm not going to quote exactly. I'll have you play the clip, but I'll paraphrase it here. They say basically 55 is it's too slow. It's unsafe because 55 is fast enough to kill you, but slow enough to make you think you're safe.
It's so easy on these interstates. Can you imagine making this trip at 55 miles an hour? 55 miles an hour is unsafe. It's boring. That's why it's unsafe. Nothing's fast enough to kill you, but it's slow enough to make you think you're safe. What time have you got?
I like it. I think that was definitely a really good quote right there.
It's such it's not like funny, but it's such a cool line in this movie. Like it's just something that these characters would absolutely say to each other to justify doing like 120 down an interstate. It's hilarious.
Yeah. I'm choking here, Greg.
The line was so good, we've killed him.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's fucking water.
That water's going 55 down your throat.
I know.
Fast enough to kill you.
I usually don't do this, but I'm going to insert my own quote at this moment right here. Fart horn. All right.
Keeping Gary Busey alive in our hearts.
I gotta love him. Because sometimes after we do these shows, and even after I'm done editing it, I listen to it again and I edit it, I forget what I say.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised that Catherine may not answer our questions. Because in the beginning of the episode, Greg, you said that the film had no redeeming qualities.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
But
I stand by that.
I think I took it. It was one of those moments where I was falling asleep and I thought about what I said and I felt embarrassment before I could actually fall asleep.
Oh,
I said in the episode after the apple, Catherine Mary Stewart went on to do more shit. She finally hit it big with Weekend at Bernie's, but then back to doing crap. Suffice to say, we probably won't get a reply back from Catherine, and I totally understand why. But that's what you get here. You get brutal honesty. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Actors have to know when they're scraping the bottom of the barrel to keep their career going. Everyone does it. Everyone has to do what they need to do in order to stay relevant, right? So I'm not calling anyone out, mainly because there's no one to call out to.
Because she's definitely not listening to this. I'm sure she got probably 5 minutes into that episode where she was screening it before she, wanted to reply, and she's like, "Nope."
But just know, here on That's Canon, we're keeping it real. And we're not
filtering ourselves.
Exactly. Because there was a moment there where I was like, should I just stop saying stuff like that in order to potentially keep actors to message us? Like maybe I shouldn't be saying such horrible things. But Greg was like, no, keep going. Keep being you.
We gotta be honest, and that's what makes this, honestly, even if no one listens to these episodes, that's what makes it fun to do, because we're just kind of having a regular conversation. We're not feeling like anyone's looking over our shoulder, and damn it, Phil, if you want to compare Gary Busey to a horse because of his teeth, you're gonna do it.
Gary,
that's
America. Your fucking teeth are horse-like, okay? But it's okay. We're just saying, I'm bald. It's all right. We all have physical things about us that we don't like, but you're a millionaire with fucking horse teeth, and I'm just Phil on That's Canon.
We're just a couple of regular chuds making a podcast that maybe someone listens to, maybe not.
You know what? I've looked at the numbers. We do consistently pull down in the 20s now. So
thanks, Mom.
We're fucking someone, Catherine Mary Stewart. So you watch your ass, because one day we're going to become more popular than you. And then when you ask us questions for your podcast, I'm going to answer them.
Oh, man. The fact that we're like digging in and being indignant, it was like, well, we didn't even want you to reply anyway.
Yeah. I'm totally nice guying this right now.
I was going to say.
That's what you got to do, though. You got to cause controversy. Then someone's going to listen to this and they're going to post it to Reddit, and they're going to be like, listen to these chuds
making fun of
Catherine Mary Stewart.
Oh, and then eventually like a sex tape is going to come out.
Yes.
And we're going to be super embarrassed. And it's going to be in the tabloids.
But then we're going to be millionaires, though, by the time that happens.
Because we're going to launch our lifestyle brand.
Exactly.
That's Canon Cologne.
Yes.
That's Cologne.
That's Cologne. It smells like old Blockbusters.
Smell old VHS plastic and stale red vines.
Oh, yeah. Stale red vines. Well, Catherine Mary
podcast
Stewart.
About again?
Yeah. Catherine Mary Stewart, answer us, please. I'm just kidding.
Please.
Keep your fucking answers to yourself. We're going all over the place now here. Well, if you like what you're hearing, please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. You can also throw us a line at thatscanon@gmail.com. That's canon, CANNON @gmail.com. We're also posting stuff infrequently up on YouTube. We post the podcast up there too. Sometimes we got video reviews. I'm currently working on one right now for the Zack Snyder cut, but holy shit, is that movie just not good.
Oh boy, that's a good teaser. So yeah, keep an eye out for that video, folks.
Yeah, better than the Joss Whedon version, but that's not saying much. And remember, since we said it,
that's canon.